moving on, we go to a little bit of throwback here. I wanted to
Yeah.
explore doing some more like older albums from time to time, finding opportunities to do that. And here's a great one right now. So we have Live, period, Love, period, ASAP by ASAP Rocky. 15 songs, 49 minutes long. And this was originally released in like 2011, essentially, as like one of his first like
Yeah.
album proper outfits. And it was just a very interesting time in rap music back then because you would have almost considered ASAP Rocky as under not quite underground, but definitely not mainstream. Like right now he sort of has like an almost household name in the music industry.
Yeah, 100%.
Lest we forget the whole affair where he was stuck in a European country, I want to say Sweden, and Donald Trump was negotiating his release.
Never forget.
We'll have you back ASAP, ASAP. Um Great. What's that show in Canada that's like just Canada moments or whatever?
Oh, yeah.
It's like Canadian heritage, like heritage moments, things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Thank
like
you.
one of
Thank you.
those. It was like one of those like audio face moments. It's just Trump and ASAP Rocky. That whole experience. It's a great time.
Beautiful.
But yeah, listening to this, it's a great walk down memory lane. But it's also an interesting exercise in seeing. Okay, these are some things that sort of had some legs in rap music and trap music, and here are some things that are like, okay, this feels very dated and old and almost like 90s boom bap level. Yeah, what'd you think with this sort of exercise?
It was interesting to go back and listen to the original album 2011. And some of it I remember because I didn't really listen to ASAP that much, but like the song uh with Boy Q and stuff. Like I remember listening to some of those tracks, but it was interesting to see like the differences on some of the tracks then to what it is now, and to see what now hearing it if it sounds fresh or not. Like example, you have Dreams and Nightmares by Meek Mill. To me, that album still sounds relatively fresh for what it is, and that one came out in 2012. But there are other albums, other rap albums that you're listening to from the early 2010s, or even not just necessarily rap and trap, but alt rock, indie. There's a bunch of different records where you listen to it and it sounds extremely dated for what it is. But then there'll be others that are the opposite, and they, pass the true test of time. So,
Yeah,
but overall, I felt like there was some things in here I go, wow, I forgot about that. And there's other tracks in here where I go, yeah, you could definitely hear that it's dated, or that you can hear, oh wow, it's the beginnings of some of the trap sounds you hear today, or beginnings of certain things that you hear today too. So it's really cool. I thought it was actually a good idea to do this because I was interested to hear what you thought too. Like the example, brand new guy with Skidboy Q, which is 5 songs into it. I actually really liked that track, but it was interesting in a way because it like was super slowed down in the beginning, and that way it popped up. I was like, wow, it sounds dated in a way, but it's still something that I like.
yeah, like Peso earlier in that was like
Yep,
a good example of like very dated, very classic ASAP Rocky, but like very dated. And I love
very,
listening to
very.
this like track, like in the mix of constantly listening to new music. Truly, it's like nice, like variety, even if it is dated, but dated nonetheless. Um, like brand new guy with lyrics like "teach you how to jerk." It's just like literally just like a whiplash of like how old these songs and these tracks and references are, which is like speaks to a lot of our criticisms when we're talking about songs that are, or albums that are really emphasizing the pandemic,
Yeah,
quarantine, lockdown, all these different
they're
things.
gonna be in a bubble. Like we're gonna be in a super time capsule. Think of it a decade from now, right? You're gonna look on that, be like, wow, where were you when this was happening? Like, I remember what I felt when this album was released or whatnot. So there's gonna be a lot of stuff where you can feel that. I mean, you even get that with some of the albums that came out even just a couple of years ago. The way where some music, I think rap, trap, pop, you could get this a lot where a lot of those albums will be made for a specific time, and then others will be made to kind of last through time. And you can hear that and when you go back onto it. And on this album, you can definitely get to that too.
Yeah, and I think there's art to the idea that something is a good time capsule, like it's a good
Oh
example of a
yeah,
moment.
100%. A Brief
Um,
Inquiry from the 1975, I think, is a great time capsule of 2018. That like transition period of the late 2010s, right before the new decade, but it still can hold up too.
definitely. There's aspects of this that don't quite hold up as much. But then you get little moments here or there that are kind of oddly forward thinking, like Acid Drip. It's a 2 minute song long here
Mm.
song long in the dead like middle of the album that might have been an afterthought back in the 2011 when it was released, but now like a lot of indie rappers that are coming up are doing that kind of format, like a 2 minute long song, kind of slowed down, morphed vocals, and kind
Yep.
of just like getting
Like Earl
into.
Sweatshirt and a couple other guys. It's exactly what I thought too when I listened to it.
Yeah, and so like those are really nice moments of like, wow, this would fit in with today's music very, very well. And um it's truly impressive. Again, this really just kind of is an exercise in showing like here's an example of an old album and where it um stood the test of time truly and where it fell short. But ultimately, I think like there's a constant Twitter discourse that happens over how long does it take for an album to be a classic, right? I think that's a fun question. I was bobbling around in my head, and I'd say like ballpark 2 or 3 years before you can even consider like the best album a classic, because it needs to do a lot of things we're
It
talking
needs to
about.
marinate.
Yeah, needs to marinate, needs to stand the test of time, needs to be able to, in a lot of different iterations and seasons and forms, like really hold up. And I think that for a certain person, for a certain rap head, Live Love ASAP holds up. But, it never really had that further, mainstream appeal that like
Mhm.
broaden out that reach. You go on to his later discography, right? Like my personal favorite, Testing, but you have at long last ASAP as well. And I think there you're starting to get into the songs that are a lot more like, okay, people really, really know ASAP Rocky as he's really blowing up. And he's really, really memorable from all of this stuff. I think from both of those albums, especially. But yeah, this is an early one. I think this is just a really nice exercise in um this is an artist as they were coming up, as they were starting. Look at this. There's little bits of genius here. There's a little bit of roughness around the edges, but just take this work as it is. And it's
Mhm.
nice these things are kind of coming out to streaming services. I'm definitely really interested in doing more
I
reviews
mean,
that are like
you're
retro.
you're gonna get this next week with Radiohead with Kid Amnesia. You're gonna get a perfect time capsule album of tracks that they never released necessarily, but were all recorded in '99 to 2000 to 2001 at the latest. So stuff that came out 2 decades ago, even more than that. What does that sound compared for a band that has done it for 30 years? How does that hold up to today? So you get that again, which I like doing this because it's really cool to have that and have that conversation because I don't think a lot of people talk about that. As because both of us, we love. There's certain albums that will forever be on our rotations, and we'll always listen to it. They'll have like a time capsule aspect to it. Like example, that Mad Villainy will always have a time capsule aspect to me of growing up, like our own friendship early on, and then also like other things that have happened. So it's like 3 tiers of an album because it's been it was released in '05, but I can still listen to it to this day, full gas, and enjoy and create new memories out of it. Even so, it's really cool. And this, I do like ASAP Rocky. This is cool to go back onto it and to see that he's definitely a talented artist. And yeah, I think Acid Drip was kind of cool because it's funny. I thought the same thing when I listened to it. I was like, wow, this would fit perfectly in today's modern indie rap, basically.
Yeah. So it's a classic of sorts. There's a lot of
Yeah.
value of sorts. And I think that's perfectly fine for ASAP Rocky to have here. And
Yep.
10 years on, it's definitely not like there's a lot worse positions to be in. It's not like, oh damn, ASAP Rocky, he really fell off, or
Mhm.
it's actually better now. It's actually not ASAP Rocky. He started from a really strong position and only kind of went up from there and has continued to do so. Uh You'll be back ASAP, ASAP still rocks. Arbitrary scale. Alternative names for Facebook. as we do arbitrary scales all the time, this is what are you gonna give this?
This is chain happy. Like,
Okay.
over there, you're so lost in the sauce, right? You don't understand because you're a robot or alien or some shit. I don't know. And you don't know how to talk to people. You don't even know if you are a human being anymore at this point. So you're like chain happy. That's what I'm changing it to because everybody's chained happy together. And you're like, I gotta say yes or else I'm fired.
We are blockchain happy. It could easily be that. I'm when you're talking about, like soulless humans who are like barely even, like just completely devoid of relationship to their empathy and things like that. Of course, I was immediately thinking of Succession, and so I'm gonna give this the vault. I'm gonna give this the Vaulter, the
Yeah.
the fake company from. It's a real company, but like a fake. It's a company that's fictitious in the show Succession that
Yes.
plays a plot line in the first 2 seasons.
Mhm.
But
That's
yeah,
great.
it's like a
That's
news. Yeah, it's a news website essentially.
good.
Um, oh how the cookie crumbles. Anyways,